Live from Bluefield, Indiana, you are listening to the Dana and Travis Show.
Greetings and well wishes. My name is Dana.
And I am Travis.
Broadcasting you live from Flatsar Digital Studios in Bluefield, Indiana, bringing forth the knowledge from around the world in 60 minutes.
We hope you enjoy the show.
All right, there we go. Thanks everybody for listening tonight. Again, I'm Dana.
And I'm Travis.
And we're broadcasting you from Flatsar Digital Studios. And we're just going to kind of talk about just a variety of things. Bear with us, and maybe later on at some point, if you have actually topics that you would like to hear us go on about, you can contact us, and we will try to acquiesce those
Requests
and thoughts, yes.
If you'd like to suggest us some topics or different types of, or just comments in general, you can email us at the Dana and Travis Show at gmail.com. There is no it's Dana and Travis Show at gmail.com.
Or you can also find us on Facebook under the Dana and Travis Show. Be sure to check out our Facebook page. We'll be periodically putting stuff on there that we find interesting also, and then you can also message us through there.
We'll also put pictures and maybe videos, and we might put up stuff on the Facebook page that might not necessarily have anything to do with the show. We kind of would like to create a little community with our show. That's about what we would like to accomplish with this podcast.
Yeah, kind of bringing the world together in our own little warped way.
Yeah, because, if you know me, I am very opinionated and I have a lot to say, and Dad, he has opinions, but he kind of has experiences that people kind of look up to him, and he's kind of done some stuff that people around where we live in little Bloomfield, Indiana, they don't get to do what he's done.
I like to do things that other people would think is completely idiotic, but that's just me. That's the persona that I like to put out there for everybody. But we'll get into that more through some other podcasts. But
yeah, I think we'll have some future shows where we'll actually talk about some of the experiences he's had, like with going to Everest and our trip to Ireland that we went on.
Oh, the Ireland trip. And actually the picture on our Facebook page and our banner is a gentleman that we saw actually in Ireland who had a little bit too much Guinness and was having kind of a rough day. And, of course, we capitalized on his ill fortune and took his picture.
And what's really unfortunate about his situation is right after I took that picture, we walked right down the road, and then we saw an ambulance pretty much take him away after that point. So, God rest his soul.
Yeah, but the ambulance is over there. It might have been a Guinness truck. It might have been taking him back to the brewery. Who knows?
Yeah, he might have been an escapee from a brewery.
His Guinness level was probably deadly low, and he had to get an intravenous dose of Guinness to regain his Irish cockiness.
But he had that classic, just like white-haired, white-beard hobo look. I mean, that's about as traditional as hobo as you can get.
Oh, yeah, it was like Turtle Man meets Boxcar Willie. It was awesome.
Oh, it's sad I don't know what Boxcar Willie is.
Oh, jeez. Okay, we are going to illuminate lots of people on lots of different things, and we'll have to have a complete episode dedicated to Boxcar Willie.
Well, see, but that's the thing about this podcast. See, the reason why I came to you, and I said, hey, Dad, let's do a podcast together because we have a lot to talk about. And, there's stuff that I could learn, there's stuff you could learn, and there's stuff that our very, very few listeners can learn too.
Exactly.
So... by the way, I am not the host of this show. Actually, Dad is because he has a lot more experience on me. But
well, I think we're actually co-hosts here, and probably more importantly than anything, my therapist said that this was a good way to vent my emotions. So,
wise words.
Yes, and you'll always listen to your therapist; that they will not steer you wrong.
Um, well, you're the first person I've ever heard say that.
Hey, that's my own opinion. That's just what I've.
I mean, usually you project your ill fortunes and uh, shortcomings on a therapist because that's what they're there for. They take the blunt of all of your frustration and.
But do you know what a wise man once told me?
What's that?
You gotta forget your shortcomings and. Well, I totally screwed that one up.
Oh, I mean,
you gotta count your blessings and forget your shortcomings.
He would be so disappointed in you for forgetting that.
He would, but he would also, I think, deep down, wish he were me.
Are you sure about that?
I think that was from Smokey and the Bandits.
Well, I can say I have seen Smokey and the Bandits, so there we go. All right, everyone. Well, once again, a lot of people, I've been getting a few comments like, why the podcast is dumb, why do you want to do this? And I'm like, you know what, this is a form of media that a lot of people really don't really understand and get. I mean, it's you okay there?
Yeah, sorry about that, I fell down, but I'm okay.
But it's a form of media that people really don't understand.
And especially it's a generational thing because this is very new to me. You're talking cassettes and 8-track tapes and AM FM radio, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean we are creating our own radio show in my place. I mean it's a very new thing, but it's been around for about 7 or 8 years now.
So let's hear some of your what are some of your favorite, maybe some podcasts that interest you, or something that you kind of might base a format off of.
Well, the one podcast that I usually go to, which if any of you check out any of these podcasts, you got to keep in mind that podcasts are very, very open form. There's no FCC to regulate things you say. You can pretty much do and say whatever you want. I mean, besides, putting music up that's not yours to put up without permission. But I tend to go to the Adam Carolla show, and you can almost say that I'm obsessed with it, with his show. And it's not necessarily because of what the things that he does or the things he says. It's just the way the whole show is the way the show is formatted. The guests that he brings on the show, you never know who he's gonna bring on a show from week to week. Some weeks it's it could be a famous actor. Like he had one actor that we're gonna talk about later on in the show, which has something to do with Luke Skywalker. But he had him on his show, and then he had it from him to comedian Brad Williams to Greg Proops.
And hopefully, if we get a following of some sort, then maybe later on down the road we can have our own call-in guests.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to get someone, because
who would you like to have for a call-in guest?
Well, Adam Kroll has made comments before that if there is any podcaster out there that would like to talk to him, he would be more than happy to.
Cool. And I've kind of put some things together myself on maybe some people I think would be just really interesting podcast guests. Probably at the top of my list would be Gary Busey.
Oh, Gary Busey?
Yeah, I mean, him and Danny Bonaducci would be really close.
Did you know Adam Kroll used to work with Danny Bonaducci?
I think it was on a radio station.
He was on a radio show with him.
I think I remember hearing that somewhere.
He ended up not working with him anymore because he went to the radio station. He told him that he could not work with Danny Bonaducci anymore.
I could not understand that.
He said he's a good guy.
It's not the whole transvestite thing, is it?
No. No, he says
you could easily be fooled, and I don't fault Danny for not recognizing the huge Adam's apple. It could happen to anybody.
It could, but he apparently he told the radio station, he's like, hey, look, Danny Bonaducci's a good guy. I like him. I respect him. I just can't work with him.
Well, I'll tell you what. Dog the Bounty Hunter. This is more serious.
Yeah.
Diamond Dallas Page.
DDP Yoga.
Yes, DDP Yoga.
You know, would it be cool to get DDP Yoga as a sponsor?
That would, because we all know that it ain't your mama's yoga.
It ain't your mama's yoga. And speaking of DDP Yoga, if you've never heard of it, Diamond Dallas Page, former wrestler, uh, WWF and WCW wrestler,
Correct.
He came up with this idea after he got out of wrestling that he knows that some of his fellow colleagues and former wrestlers were having problems getting back up on their feet, and they were just getting caught up in drugs.
Well, I think, and personally, I think he had a lot of back issues. I think his wife actually um, encouraged him just to do the standard yoga, and he did that, and it did help. So he just took that one step further and kind of tweaked it and made it his own, and kind of made his own little sub version of yoga.
And from what I've seen of it, Dad owns it.
Yes, I'm a proud owner. A lot of stretching, a lot of the very basic yoga stances and exercises, with some other things thrown in. Stressing, flexibility, balance. Just the normal yoga things, just a little bit more intense.
And he actually, Jake the Snake.
Yes, Jake.
He saved his life because of his yoga.
Yep, Jake the Snake. He's with Diamond Dallas Page, and Scott Hall is as well.
Interesting.
Razor Ramon.
Cool. Well, like I said, if you get a chance to check that out, you should definitely check that out. I'm sure you can just Google it and you'll find it pretty easily. So
yeah. So yeah, follow us. Let's let this thing go viral, and maybe someday we can expand a little bit and have some call-ins.
Yes, we would love to have some. We'd like it to get more further than just 2 pairs of headphones and just speaking at my Mac.
Exactly.
with GarageBand.
And then we could also we could just have call-ins from listeners as well.
Yeah, we could possibly Skype. We can even see you face to face.
Exactly.
That'd be pretty cool. All right. We're going to move on to our main topic of the night. And if none of you have heard, they are working on the new Star Wars movies. I made a little reference to Mark Hamill, which is the actor who played as Luke Skywalker in the original 3 movies. And they just announced recently that most of the original cast, if not all of them, are coming back for the newest movie.
Yeah, I think that's cool that I think they did actually get about everybody. I think they're all, of course, they've all aged. I think the original Star Wars come out in 1977, so I'm not going to do the math real quick and figure out how old they all are, but that's where they're actually going to pick up in this new movie is all the characters aged. Of course, that would put Yoda at like 1,000,000 years old. But
yeah, I mean, he was old in the original. I mean, he was already. Well, wait, no, Yoda isn't going to be in the new ones.
Well,
remember, he died.
I guess he did.
Yeah, he did die in Jedi Strikes Back.
Possibly, I would have to research that.
In the last one, in the 3rd movie, I'm pretty sure he did. He did die in that movie.
Of course, I'm sure you probably saw Star Wars originally on VHS. I seen it in the theaters at the time.
Yep, you had them on. You had the trilogy, the three VCR tapes.
I had the VHS trilogy.
And I used to watch them all the times out at Dad's, and it was. Yeah, I'm still not a huge fan of Star Wars, but it's one of those that movie series where it's like it had so much effect on pop culture, and it created a huge community of nerds.
But on a deeper level, there's a huge, I wouldn't say a Star Wars religion, but
it's almost there.
The whole premise of Star Wars, good versus evil, the dark and
the dark side,
the good, yeah. The moral dilemmas, I always sometimes you can compare yourself to Anakin Skywalker, do the right thing or just let the dark force just consume you, because sometimes it's easier.
If you look back, if Anakin would have done the right thing, you know, he wouldn't have slaughtered children later on down the road, and he wouldn't have.
But Yoda seen it coming.
Yoda said that it was going to happen, and they all had faith in him that he would come through. But that just goes to show how easily evil can take over, and how it can steer your life down a path that you wouldn't have normally thought you would ever take.
I seen some kind of a trivia thing on the original Star Wars, and the stormtroopers, the guys in the white outfits with the big white helmets, went running through up and down hallways, and they said this one stormtrooper just about took his head off on part of the set as he was running through the hallway, and they didn't edit it out, and it was, of course, I guess, and probably in real life, a stormtrooper could run into a wall if you got that big heavy helmet on.
Yeah, and to me, and I'll get your opinion on this, but the stormtrooper uniform, that to me is one of the most iconic movie uniforms of all time. Besides Predator.
Yeah, or Darth Vader.
Or Darth Vader. But the stormtrooper outfit, for the time, even when they went back in time, they still had those same uniforms. When I first saw it, I remember watching the first Star Wars movie, and when they first came out, you see the stormtroopers, and you're just like, oh man, it's like, look at these guys. They're scary.
And that brings me to another point that a lot of, I'm sure some people realize, but the original Star Wars was pre-CGI. All of the battle scenes in space and everything was done with miniatures and actual miniaturized props. It wasn't any computer graphic imaging, and it was all still actually done on a set instead of on a computer screen. So at the time when it came out, it was very cutting edge, and of course they had $1 million probably wrapped up in their miniature sets. But
that's cool.
Yeah.
It just goes to show, man, like nowadays whenever you have these new movies, the reason why Star Wars was so iconic at the time was because it was one of these huge innovations, to the movie world, and it was almost, people couldn't believe, like look at this, they're out in space, but now look at what we got today. No movie that comes out today, it will ever be as iconic and be as memorable as what the original Star Wars was.
And I would probably hazard to guess that the Star Wars franchise was probably the first merchandising giant. Lunch boxes, T-shirts. They put Star Wars on everything, and there wasn't any movies until Star Wars that really took on the merchandising aspect of it.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I don't think we're the only ones to talk about that, because if any of you remember the Star Wars parody, Spaceballs, they have one whole bit in that movie where it's just dedicated to merchandising.
Yeah, and
merchandising.
Star Wars was the granddaddy of merchandising.
We got lunch boxes. We got T-shirts.
Exactly.
It was so.
May the Schwartz be with you.
Yeah, may the Schwartz. But it was just so cool. And not to mention that the script of that whole movie. It has one of the first Star Wars movie. Well, the first one made. It has one of those, one of the most famous movie lines of all time in it. Luke, I am your father.
Oh yeah.
When that happened, when that moment of the movie happens, there's so much suspense, and you almost couldn't believe it just as much as Luke couldn't.
And how many times has that line been used in other movies? With a Star Wars reference.
Of course. It's still going. You still hear people do it. And,
yeah.
I couldn't tell you how many times probably Saturday Night Live probably kept onto the phrase. But there's just, it's everything about that series was just innovative, and it was, out of this world. Literally. Almost literally.
Literally. The other thing I thought was cool too, and in the battle scenes where you had the X-wing fighters and the Y fighters and the Death Star, and you hear all the lasers and the fighters had this kind of a weird roar.
Yeah, yeah.
But do you realize that in real life, if you had a battle in outer space, there would be no sound.
No, it'd all be silent.
It would be silent. Yeah, but it wouldn't be near as interesting to watch on film, without all the sound effects. But yeah, if it were to happen actually in real life in outer space, it would be quiet as a church mouse.
Yeah, but of course, the way they made it, because it wouldn't be nearly as exciting.
Yeah, but I take offense that they're not correct in their presentation of their material.
But you gotta remember, for back in the day, they weren't going at this depth.
That was pre Stephen Hawking. We didn't know all this stuff back then.
Yeah, we had no idea. we were just getting the hang of composing some of the best movie music ever.
Oh yeah, the Star Wars theme. Yeah.
When it comes to sounds, I mean, the music they got right, 100%.
Yeah, and when they were in the cantina on Tatooine or whatever the planet was, it had almost kind of that 1920s Charleston.
Oh yeah. Well, it was definitely jazz.
Yeah.
It had that swing to it.
If they'd have had some Barry White, it would have been soulful, and I think it would have put a whole new dimension into some of those scenes. C-3PO, you are a shiny piece of metal, baby.
R2, you can't make real noises. Well, yeah. Well, what about that noise R2 makes when he gets shot? I wonder.
It's so sad. It's like
or
it's like stepping on a cat's tail.
It's like booting a cat across the room. I mean, I wonder how they came up with that sound, because to me,
you know how they did it.
How?
They booted a cat across the room.
Oh, okay. Well, to go back to the music part of it.
Okay.
For the new movies coming out, I just looked up here on IGN. I also like to go to IGN a lot to get movie knowledge and stuff like that. But apparently, John Williams, the composer, is returning for the new movies, which I'm curious to see if he spices up the Star Wars.
I think he'll go old school with it.
You think he'll go old school? I mean, you're probably right, but it's just it would be interesting regardless. I mean, because the music that he does in all of his movies that he was in, everything from Jaws to E.T. to what else did Jurassic Park?
Yeah.
Jurassic Park. I mean, he just comes up. John Williams, to me, I think is one of the world's best composers, if not the best. I mean, I just can't think of it. I mean, I hope one day when you have music books and music classes, I hope people look to John Williams as like what we do to Beethoven, because I think he deserves it. I mean, of course he doesn't. It won't ever be as classical, but what he did with all these movies, especially Star Wars. Star Wars is probably his most famous. Or Jaws. Jaws is pretty close too, but the music is just out of this world.
Have they said anything? I know outside the main characters they're bringing back, like Ewoks. Some of the other side, Jar Jar Binks. Of course.
I think they're almost just doing away with those in the new. With Jar Jar, I'm pretty sure they'll probably bring back the Ewoks. But when it comes to
of course, the Ewoks,
the Gunkins is what they're called.
The Gunkins.
The Jar Jar.
Oh, okay.
The Gunkins, if I'm not mistaken.
Actually, Jar Jar was in the newer movies. The Ewoks were actually in the Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah, they were in the originals.
Yeah. And actually, I think there was another movie. Um, I think it was like the Ewoks in the Battle of Endor. It was kind of like it may have actually been a made-for-TV movie, but it was actually more centered around the Ewoks.
All right, here we go for a segue on what things other than the movies. Another interesting topic with Star Wars is that, see, after the movies were made, well, even between the movies, there were a lot of video games. There were a lot of books.
Oh yeah, I had like the trading cards. I've got somewhere at my parents'
Comic
house
books?
a stack of trading cards.
Yeah, and comic books.
Comic books, yeah.
I mean, there's this whole thing. But when Disney bought LucasArts from George Lucas, they announced shortly after that they have this thing called canon, and what that means is that anything that's outside of the original, just the movies that were made. So episode 1 through 6, anything outside of that is gone.
Oh yeah.
It's not going to exist in the Star Wars world.
Well, I know in the very early beginnings, probably before the second two movies, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, after Star Wars was released, I used to have a paperback book called Splinter of the Mind's Eye. That was a paperback offshoot of the Star Wars
Oh, cool.
franchise. But yeah, there was all sorts of other subplots and sub-stories and comic books and paperbacks. And
Yeah, they put a lot of those in video games. I do know that. They went to explain all these backstories on all these characters. I mean, you gotta realize, it was quite controversial what they did with this canon deal. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of people out there who are really upset because George Lucas made this entire a universe, and Disney came in and just said, we're not doing it.
Well, I think it sounds to me like they're keeping it more along the lines of the original story plot.
Which is good. I do like that.
But now, with respect to the newer movies, though, Revenge of the Sith,
The Clone Wars.
It gives you a lot more background on the origins of the Jedi, which I thought was pretty cool. With Liam Neeson played Qui-Gon,
Yeah.
and Ewan McGregor was a young Obi-Wan Kenobi, and of course Yoda had his little Jedi school that he taught. And,
Yeah, that was. They did a good job explaining that stuff.
Samuel L. Jackson,
which they killed him off. He had a good fight scene though with Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
Count Dooku.
And I don't know if there's any truth on it or to it or not, but I read a thing that said on Samuel L. Jackson's lightsaber, it has BMF on it. For a bad mother.
It's like, yeah, you can. Which does not surprise me.
I've got to go back and research that and see, but it's Samuel L.
Yeah, he's one of those kind of guys. I mean, he's cool.
He's old school that way.
Yeah, he's old school. but no, so it's gonna be really cool what they're doing with the new movies, and I'm also quite interested to know how the new actors are gonna play out in the new movies, because I'm pretty sure you're probably gonna have some kids of some of the of some of the originals in this, I'd say.
Well, and you're talking, and I'm just guessing here, like Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, they're pushing 60, I'm sure.
Yeah, so
Harrison Ford,
Yeah, so they'll probably have kids, probably. See, not too long ago, they did open casting calls for the new Star Wars movies, and I looked it up because I thought I could be the next Luke Skywalker.
Oh wow!
So because I'm sad like that.
I'm surprised they don't have some kind of a freaking reality show like The Voice or American Idol,
who's the next?
where you can audition for the new Star Wars movie.
I'm surprised they
I
didn't
should
do
sell
it.
that.
I'm surprised they didn't do that. That would have been great. That'd been great. I mean, I would have watched it. But anyway.
But then you would have got like these Koreans and all sorts of people that wouldn't and nothing against Asian people, but people that wouldn't necessarily fit into
that role.
The role, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which but in the descriptions, what they were looking for, they were wanting someone who was in their 20s. So that's just so to put yourself into the timeline, if they're wanting someone who looks that young, so say the main characters are probably going to be that young, or for the new movies.
Well, yeah, except for the main characters, they're actually going to retain their age, and you're going to be looking at a 60-year-old Luke Skywalker.
But you might be looking at his 22-year-old kid.
This is true.
So you'll probably but that's cool though, because that opens up, for later on if they wanted to do their new canon, be like, okay, what did the training years of becoming a Jedi, with Luke's kid and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they can do like a the Godfather Part 2, where you just keep going back and forth from old to new, old to young, old to young.
Or that, yeah. Interesting stuff.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure it'll be a very successful new venture for Disney. I'm sure they'll make a good $1 billion more, and I'm sure they'll have a ride at Disney World all about it.
And I would definitely ride that ride. It'll be hard for him to see Cotton.
Darn tootin'.
Alright, everyone. We're going to take a little break, and then we'll be right back right after this.
Well, I took a stroll on the old long walk on the DIA. I met a little girl and we stopped to talk on a friend soft DIA. And I asked you, friend, what's a fella to do? See, her hair is black and her eyes are blue. And I knew right then I'd be taking a whirl on the salty strand with a Galway girl. We were halfway there when the rain came down on the DIA. She took me up to her flat downtown on a grand soft DIA. And I asked you, friend, what's a fella to do? Because her hair is black and her eyes are blue. And I took her hand and I gave her a twirl, and I lost my heart to a Galway girl.
And welcome back to the Dana and Travis Show. Remember, if you have any suggestions or comments, you can find us on Twitter or Facebook, or you can also email us at danaandtravisshow@gmail.com.
No, in front of Dana and Travis. danaandtravisshow@gmail.com.
This is true. There is no the.
Yeah, because it wouldn't let me do that. So, to get back to the show, at this segment, we're going to do some news, I think.
Yes, we are.
I think, like I said before, we're still trying to come up with a solid format, and later on we might add in some like new special effects and stuff to make this podcast sound better. And also too, I want to point out that if this sounds kind of weird right now, it's because we're literally doing this podcast bare bones. We didn't want to go out and spend a bunch of money to do a high-end podcast if only 5 people are going to listen to it. So, like any great entrepreneur out there, you got to start off at the bottom, start off small, and then you got to work your way up.
This is true.
All right. So, this is our news segment. So,
We need to get a little. We need a typewriter clicking. In the news. Okay. I've kind of looked. I've been kind of looking through all week long for just so some kind of current news things. Certain topics trying to shy away from, but one that kind of jumped out at me was the Nigerian schoolgirl kidnappings.
Yeah, I saw this today, and this is one of those things. We're really going to try to not walk on icy waters here, because we know that a lot of people have different opinions and a lot of different thoughts about political agendas and
Well, but all politics and any other issues aside, let's just look at this from a parent's standpoint. You've got approximately 300 young girls. We're talking like 12 to 15 years old, kidnapped by radical Islamists, and I think today announced that they were going to sell them. I think they were going to offer them as wives to jihadists for like $12 a piece, which I don't know how good a price that is, but
well, to them that might be a lot. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. How would you compare that to well, regardless, it's sick.
Yeah, regardless, not one child on this planet or in this universe should ever be sold for money to anyone.
And I know it was kind of late breaking news this afternoon that the United States was going to send over some law enforcement and some military assets to Nigeria, which they've been kidnapped for. I think this is like the 19th day, so you're talking almost a month they've been gone. And I guess the Nigerian government, I don't know if they were required to request aid or help with it, but you would think that geez, 19 days they could be in another universe.
Well, it's just one of those deals. It's like let's take a look at Africa for a second. And when you look at Africa, I mean, how long has it been, since the Islamists invaded Africa for the most? I mean, they're getting further and further south.
Yeah, exactly. Which Nigeria, if you look on a map, it's not North Africa, like when I think of North Africa, I think of Libya, Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt. Nigeria is actually more
in the center.
Yeah, between North and Equatorial Africa, on the western coast. But obviously, and I'm sure there's probably Muslims throughout the continent, but the radicalized Muslims, I think, are branching out.
But
the same way they are all over the world.
But the thing is, it makes sense, though, why they're there, because this is one part of the world where they are very unregulated. No one goes in and tells them what to do.
It's the Wild West.
It literally is the Wild West. Until recently, like the Congo has this civil war problem and all these. You could almost. It's definitely a coup there. You have rebels out on trucks with machine guns, and if you happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, you're going to get shot.
Yeah, and then you get on the Horn of Africa, Sudan, South Sudan now, with the world's newest country. Very serious unrest and just flat out still genocide going on in that area. And then just generally all across North Africa. Libya is still a mess. And then you've got all sorts of the jihadist influence, from coast to coast.
Yeah, but you're right. When it all comes back down to it, it's just you. I'm sorry for the noise, people. My pet is going crazy, and he was doing good so far, but now he's starting to act up.
Yeah. He'll quiet down. But anyways, the Nigerian story, that just was the one big one that caught my eye. Have you found anything at all this week, Travis, you'd like to discuss?
Well, I saw something this morning, and this is not the news story I'm going to talk about, but I just see a lot of sweet irony in this news story coming up because this morning they announced the government announced that that they had to have new findings of the global warming that's going on in the world, and it all comes down to is that it all comes down to fear, and global climate change might be happening, it might not be happening. Who really knows? But what the story that I found this morning is that there's going to be an asteroid. If it hasn't passed already, there's going to be an asteroid passing, and it's going to get closer to us than what the moon is.
Yeah, it was like a 200,000 miles or somewhere in that ballpark.
218,000 miles from the Earth. And to put that in perspective, the moon is not really sure how far. I know the moon is probably about 300,000 to 400,000.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably the 200,000 is probably about the halfway mark, I'm guessing.
I mean, when you think about, in this asteroid, it's the size of a school bus.
Now, is that a full-size school bus or like a short bus?
No,
let's be specific.
It's 100 feet wide.
Because here at the Dana and Travis Show, we like to research and get all of our facts.
No, it is. I'd say it's probably a regular sized school bus. It's 100 feet.
Or a city bus.
It's 100 feet wide.
That's a big school bus.
That's a big school bus.
It's like Ghostbusters has a big Twinkie.
That's a big Twinkie. But no. This is a really, really big asteroid.
Big enough that it could really cause some serious.
It could destroy a city.
Yeah, it could destroy a city, and actually, and it could completely. You talk about climate change. It could change the climate for a year, probably. It was in the 1800s where there was a volcano that erupted. I believe like in Indonesia area. I don't know if it was Krakatoa, but it spewed out enough ash. It changed global weather for like a year and a half. I think most every place in the world was running. I think I'm just trying to recall. I think somewhere around 10 to 12 degrees lower in temperature, which it's the big scheme of things. 10 degrees is a big drop.
It is, yeah.
Enough to affect crops and all sorts of things.
Yeah, 10 degrees, that's enough to go from cool weather to freezing weather. So
yeah,
that could be a big deal.
So let's just hope that the school bus goes on by.
Yeah, because that's why I brought up the global warming thing, is that and they've been talking about this all day, and I'm sure a lot of you listening, you've probably heard it too, but they were talking about this all day, and nonstop. But there was not one mention of this story. This is a huge asteroid. If it were to hit us and it's coming this close to us.
Well, and there again, that's a prime example where there are so many variables, whether it be a volcano, a school bus-sized asteroid, or whatever. One big event, could
change everything.
Could trigger, a major, global change or climate shift. Which, and in my personal opinion, I think everything runs in cycles regardless. So,
it's been doing this since humanity's been around.
Yeah, and who's to say that we're not supposed to go through a climate change?
Yeah, there was
that may be normal.
There was an ice age once before, and it ended.
We've only really had, pretty, good weather reports for only 100 years. So it's hard to, to take 100 years worth of data, and then trying to, forecast 100 years down the road. You can't do it.
Well, I heard a good saying today, where it's like when turn on the news in the morning and watch the weather, and imagine that weatherman saying that he can predict what the weather's going to be in 25 years. You wouldn't believe him.
No. He might give a percentage, but geez, that's just like a guess.
Yeah,
basically it's a guess.
He might be right.
No, there's a 40% chance of rain. It might not. Who knows?
Yeah, there's been plenty of times whenever they put these things into their graphs and they put these into these weather models, and they were completely wrong.
Exactly, because a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of variables that you just can't really factor in.
I mean, if we can, I mean, to get back on the asteroid, um, it just goes to show that, you know, we and we listen to a lot of Coast to Coast when we get a chance, and there's a lot of people who talk about asteroids and how close we've been in the past, and nothing really ever gets spoken about when it comes to this stuff. But asteroids are so weird because you'd think that, with all this technology we have, kind of like with the Malaysian airline, with all this technology we have, why aren't we able to find it? Kind of like an asteroid that's a size of a school bus. I mean, hurling at the Earth.
Well, that's true, but I mean, and let's get real. I know there's some private foundations and different private organizations that watch the skies. But the NASA budget has been hacked and hacked and hacked away on. We're paying the Russians to put our own astronauts up there in the sky now.
Yeah.
So
well, they want us to get there on trampolines now.
Yeah.
I think that's what Putin said recently.
Oh, really? No, I missed that.
Yeah, he said that he thinks the only way that we should be allowed to get to the space is by using trampolines.
I get this sneaking feeling that Putin don't like us. I don't know why.
I think I agree.
And
but who does he really like?
I don't know.
Oh, that's also something else someone said today. I was talking to about the asteroid. It's like, you know what? I'm all for the asteroid if it lands in Russia.
Which a lot of them do for some unknown reason. You've got the Tunguska event back in the early 1900s, took out half of Siberia. Just a couple of years ago, you had that meteorite that exploded over Russia and shattered windows and actually injured people.
When I went back and watched that video,
oh, it's awesome.
That is one of those kind of videos. Like, imagine just waking up and going outside, and you see this big fireball hurling from the sky right at you.
Well, and that was one of those really cool, and there were so many good videos of it. I mean, it was just.
I mean, I could not imagine being there to witness that.
Yeah, and I've heard like Travis said, I listened when I was on night shift. I listened to Coast religiously, but they have a lot of people come on and talk about subjects like that. But yeah, for some reason they don't really know why, but it seems like that part of the Earth is attracts meteors, asteroids, whatever. Yeah, and that's good.
Yeah, they're in Mexico. It seems. But no, once again, it's an interesting story, and it's a close call no matter what way you look at it.
Well, yeah.
I mean, this thing is getting dangerously close, and I mean, look it up on Google or whatever. You can find artist renditions of what it looks like, and what it would look like if it collided with the Earth and what it could do.
I know. Another thing, kind of a similar note. I did see on the news where they think that the lava is forming again in the Cascades. Like Mount St. Helens.
Really?
Yeah. And of course, for months they've been preaching about the Yellowstone supervolcano. How there's been massive amounts of helium expelled from the Earth, and that was a sign of this, and an increasingly amount of earthquakes, small tremors. In fact, I think there was like a 4 something near you. Oh yeah, because there was a video it went viral everywhere of the buffalo stampeding out of Yellowstone. It was going to blow.
Yeah, and everyone was saying, "Oh, is this going to be the end?" I know I saw a lot of people post that, but no, that's another thing too. That you you get back on this talk of people wanting to prevent all these catastrophic events. Yellowstone is one thing that people really don't talk about.
Yeah, and of course I worked in Yellowstone back in the 1980s. Actually, in Mammoth Hot Springs, where obviously a lot of hot springs. But it wasn't really until recent times. There's a spot in Yellowstone where you can look out over what you would think is a valley, and but it's actually not a valley; it's a crater that's just so old it's filled up with trees and it resembles a valley. It's called a caldera, which is where the volcano exploded hundreds of thousands of years ago, and then the soil and the crust kind of collapsed on itself and formed just a very large deep depression.
Well, isn't there the lake that's in Yellowstone where they said it there for a long time it was tilting?
Oh yeah. The magma was actually making one end of the lake taller than the other. They couldn't figure out. They had all these studies done, and there was like boat docks on the southern end of the lake that were almost underwater, and then you go up to the other end, and it's getting shallower, and basically the whole lake is tilting underneath, just like tilting a pan of water.
Yeah, and just
people just don't realize how volatile. I mean, that's in fact the Yellowstone Basin is probably one of the most geologically volcanic areas in the world. And it's right here. Of course, we think of it as Yellowstone, elk and bison and bears, and we don't think volcano, but it's a huge volcano.
And just imagine if that thing erupted.
Oh, it'd be catastrophic.
I mean, if that thing blew up, that would probably cause global warming.
Yeah, and there again, another variable, and it may not, who knows, but.
I can just imagine.
But if you have an event that large, though, then that could trigger a whole different, kind of like an alternate universe. That could send everything spiraling into another set of events.
Yeah, it just causes a chain reaction. I mean, I can only imagine that eruption. I mean, it would destroy most of the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, if not that, the ash will burn everything. I mean, I couldn't imagine.
Sturgis, South Dakota would be gone. Where would all the bikers go then?
That would be a catastrophe. Where would Chumley go?
Exactly. Random thought.
All right, everyone. I think we have one more quick news story.
Yes, I've got one. I thought was kind of interesting. The United States Navy has its first female submarine sailors. In the 110-year history of the U.S. Navy Submarine Corps, there's never been women on submarines. And today, I think they announced that 3, I believe, lieutenants, all female, are going to actually begin serving on nuclear submarines.
And that's really cool. I mean, you never really thought that women were never allowed to be on submarines.
Well, yeah, I mean, you think about it. Alec Baldwin, Sean Connery, Gene Hackman, Denzel. But there's never any girls.
No.
Now there are.
Oh, they need to make a movie on that. I think they need to make they need to make like a spin-off of let's see,
Hunt for Red October.
Yeah, Hunt for Red October or
Crimson Tide.
Crimson Tide. Yeah, just replace Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman with.
Yeah, who would be good?
Yeah,
How about Oprah?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
It'd have to be
somebody more. How about Helen Hunt? I've always liked Helen Hunt. Okay, I'm batting 1,000 here.
We're not good at this. We're just gonna move on. But anyway,
no, I am good at this. He just does not like the names I'm throwing out. So be that as it may.
Well, I'm biased like that. So.
But anyways, we've got female submariners now. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool. Well, our time is just about up.
Wow, where does the time go?
I don't know. we'd like to hear everyone's thoughts and.
Absolutely, yeah. Hit us up on our email or our Facebook or Twitter. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you think. If there's topics that you want to hear about, that you want to hear our awesome insight on, feel free, and we will do our best to do those topics and have shows at a later date on those topics.
Yeah. Once again, we'd just like to thank you for listening to this. If you are listening, I almost a loss for words, but this is our first episode, of course, and it's not perfect. We will eventually have more interesting things to talk about, and we're gonna try to allot more time to dedicate more time to this and to do more research and to, like I said, I mean, if you guys listen to this enough, we can maybe eventually invest in some nicer equipment, maybe one of these days, so we can have better sounding recordings. We can provide you a podcast that doesn't involve an animal scratching in the background the entire time.
That has character, though. I like that.
But, well, it's not very professional, but it is what it is.
And yeah, and of course, maybe someday when we hit the big time, and we will then have sponsors.
Yeah.
Then,
like I said, DDP yoga. I mean, I think we should go ahead and start preaching that.
Heck yeah.
I mean, beforehand, so we can go ahead and get a sponsor from Diamond Dallas Page himself.
So if you're out there and you want to sponsor us, we'll hook you up.
Even if you're local, I mean, that'd be really cool. We'd also be happy to, if there's any community events that you would like, people to hear, locally, you can contact us and you can tell us what you would like. We could give out a shout out or a place and time of where an event might take place.
We can have a birthday club.
Yes. If you have a birthday, we'll sing happy birthday to you.
This is shamelessly, I don't know, it's awkward.
Yeah. I mean, we're just spitballing ideas right here. But you know what? This gives this podcast character.
That's right.
And
because where else can you hear rambling quite like this?
I mean, this is almost nonsense rambling.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can either listen to us or you can listen to people, like Adam Carolla, which you should all check out if the Adam Carolla podcast, if you don't mind hearing a lot of profanity, topics that might make you uncomfortable, which I'll have to say, I mean, that's the one thing about podcasts, like I said earlier, I mean, there is no one regulating it. It's not like radio.
Yeah, but I found that when you get out of your comfort zone, that is when you have the opportunity to grow.
Yes. But it can also give you the opportunity to get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, it can get you sued too, but I'm just saying, you can grow.
Oh, that's also another thing too, people.
Don't sue us.
if we say something that you don't like or you don't agree with, we would like you to send us a respectful message on Facebook or an email, preferably not on Facebook, because let's just be honest, let's try to avoid.
Let's keep it between us.
Yeah, and we'll try to do what we can to be more sensitive, or not so sensitive, depending on what the topic is.
I find it very hard not to be opinionated, but that's the great thing about this country is everyone can have an opinion.
That is true.
You respect mine, I respect yours.
I mean, we do not live. I mean, when people start saying about things that you can and can't say, this is when I throw out that we are not Russia, and there's a reason why everyone doesn't like Russia.
Yeah, but Putin is kind of cool in a badass sort of way.
Just a little bit, but at the same time, he's also a nut.
No, Kim Jong-un is a nut.
And like I said, I have no problem with an asteroid the size of a bus accidentally hitting his house. I was telling that to someone today. Like, You know how whenever Kim Jong-il died, everyone was out in the streets crying.
Oh, wailing and carrying on, yeah.
I wonder what happened if an asteroid collided. Why couldn't we get that? Why couldn't an asteroid just collide with where Kim Jong-un is? That means there's no wars. No one attacked him. Even though the Koreans might say that, they have this new asteroid projectile gun.
Yeah, it would somehow still be our fault.
But we wouldn't have to go to war with them. I just like to see what would people do out in the streets. I mean, I'd like to see what would happen. Would people go out there and cry like they did with Kim Jong-il, or would they go out and party in the streets like they could never party before?
I think they would see it as some kind of a sign, and probably just go on some other new weird religious, political,
whatever they do. Well, all right, everyone. Thank you for listening to podcast. Once again, you can find us on Facebook and you can find us on Twitter. Our Twitter tag is at Dana and Travie. Twitter wouldn't let me put Dana and Travis show, so it cut off right at the V in Travis. So
freaking Twitter.
Or not the I. So now it's Dana and Travie at Twitter. And
until we can get that correct, just feel free to Facebook us.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Who does not have Facebook?
But if you have any questions regarding content for the show, or if you want to be a guest on the show to have an interesting conversation with us you can email us at danaandtravisshow@gmail.com. No the in front of Dana and Travis Show. It's danaandtravisshow@gmail.com.
Yeah, we can't stress that enough. There's no the.
No the.
On the email.
Just on the email. You can, there's the in front of everything else everywhere else.
Awesome.
Well, all right.
Let's wrap this up.
All right. Do it to it, Dad.
All right. Just like to leave with this one thought before we leave here tonight, and that is, you be careful now.
Solid.